Hey, shalom, shalom. It's your brother Raza Allah from GMS London Camp. First and foremost, I'm going to give all praises and glory to Yahweh, Bar Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Bar Hashem, Rachakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone. Blessings to the hopeful and sincere elect, Bar Chayakodash. That's the holy elect, Baha Raza, in and around the four winds of the earth. Greetings, man. Some more info, as brothers well aware of this spilling. Spilling of the tea on this Epstein files and the latest stories that are coming out in regard to all these different emails that have been surfacing or resurfacing, should I say, and being released by the FBI, and showing you compromised intel of all the wicked elite, so-called 1%, the cabal of this society, and their puppets that they control on this side of the earth. In regards to guys like Epstein, who's just a shill, basically, of the wicked elite, the international banking families that run this whole earth. I call them the underground kings, as the scriptures call them. To say that the secret council of the wicked, the council of iniquity, and that's exactly who they are. The modern day Luciferians, holders of the light, so to speak. Lucifer means light bearer, and these devils call themselves the holders of the light, meaning so-called illuminated ones, Illuminati, as brothers know them as. And they think that, no one sees them, man. But their biggest, like apostles always used to say, that the biggest power that these Edomites, because they're all Edomites anyway, Amalekites, small hat rats, top hats, that run the society, their biggest basically weapon to basically not knowing, not letting everyone know about them, is that they had secrets, man. There was a very secret organization, as it talks about in Psalm 64, hide me from the secret council of the iniquity. That's talking about them, because their biggest prized possession, or one of their biggest weapons that they had, was the thing of manipulation and being able to deceive mass nations into thinking that they don't exist, basically. And they always use that dogma quote about what's the greatest thing Satan ever did, deceiving man, making man deceive and making him think that he didn't exist, or something to that nature. That this dogma that comes out of the Christianity church, that they say, what's the biggest trick? Satan basically, that Satan didn't exist, or something to that nature. But either way, these devils are being exposed, and the reason why they're being exposed is because of Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai, because everything that's in the dark shall be brought to the light, and these devils are about to get judged. So there's everything that they're doing, everything that they've done, their shameful spewing of their history shall be upon their glory, man. And the Lord's lifting up the skirts of these devils, man, and revealing them for who they truly are. A bunch of demon, satanic, sadistic satanic worshippers, man. And that's what it really boils down to, man. They're all a bunch of witches and warlocks disguised as so-called peons of the earth today, Europeans in suits and ties. But really, in the ancient times, they would have been modern day witches and warlocks, man. And just doing a lot of magic and a lot of seances, and a lot of spell binding and potions and so on and so forth to stay in power. And that's exactly what the child sacrifice is. That's why the biggest thing right now is all these different, different stories, and the intel that's coming out on all this, the biggest child sex trafficking crimes on the earth right now, done by these so-called white people, man. And it's a worldwide thing. It's not just in one place, one small country. It's a worldwide organization, man. This is what you call organized crime for real, because it's worldwide, and it's on the dark web, or controlled by the dark web. But all that shit's been brought to light because, as I said, it's part of their shameful spewings. Now, as of late, part of the reveals, part of the spilling of the tea, so to speak, making their tongue fall upon themselves, is basically this guy Epstein was in bed with the Rothschilds. It says in one of the latest emails that was discovered, he was saying that he basically works for the Rothschilds. He plays the devil's advocate, basically, and he does their bidding, and he's a shill. and he was in a conversation with Ariana D. Rothschild, which she's one of the head French CEOs, if I'm not mistaken, in a French bank, one of the Rothschild companies over there in France. And she was having a back and forth, with Epstein on emails and all that, because they're supposed to have a close relationship. And they was just basically discoursing how, the Rothschild family basically funded Hitler, and his whole regime, because contrary to popular belief, Hitler was a so-called he was a cryptic J, so to speak. Let's put it that way. He was a cryptic J, and he was doing the bidding of his father, the devil. He got funded basically by the international bankers, like many of these shills and different regimes, top leaders do, lobbyists and so on and so forth. They funded this whole regime with the whole the NZ party. I'll say it like that so the video don't get clipped, and they was bragging about how basically Hitler was basically another one of their shills, man, and that they had close relations to him. And as I said, contrary to popular belief, your guy Hitler was actually illegitimate son of Solomon Rothschild's, Schicklgruber. He was an illegitimate son of Solomon Rothschild, and he goes back to that line, that lineage, man. So that's why they set him up in the first place, because he's of that stock. So, but that's contrary to what they tell you in history, that, Hitler was against the so-called Jays, but they funded his old regime. So it doesn't make no sense. That shows you that this is all hypocrisy, and, these devils fund, both sides of the war. Both the activists and the protagonists, they fund both sides of the war, man, because they're going to benefit they're the ones to benefit from the outcome of the situation either way, So that's what these bankers are about. They're about making that money, and so on and so forth, man. So all this information and more information is coming out, man, and it's just as it says, Scripture says that anything that's in the dark shall be brought to light. So the Lord is exposing these devils for who they truly are, so the world can see that these so-called white people are not who people think they are, man. They're not your meek, they're not humble, they're not righteous. They're a bunch of deviant, sadistic fucks, that was once dwelling in the caves not too long ago, and they still have that same feeble mindset, man. Basis of men, because that's exactly who they are. They're the basis of men. They're children of fools. They are viler than the earth. And that's why all these stories of all the child sex trafficking and, mutilation of babies and so on and so forth, them eating, babies' intestines, eating the feces out of the intestine, all this foul shit. So much, things are being revealed. It's just incomprehensible how wicked these Edomites are. But in actual fact, it's just their spirit, man. What does it say in Habakkuk 2, man? The spirit that's in them is not upright. So that's how they are, man. It's just the way the Lord made them to be the seed of the wicked, and the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. And as you can see here, you got the emblem, the coat of arms of the Rothschild family. This is their old school coat of arms. And Epstein was basically a shill. And then you had Ariana D. Rothschild, which you're trying to say she's not actual from the lineage of the Rothschild family, but either way, she represents them, man. And it's being exposed. Why? Because the Lord's exposing the secret counsel of the wicked. Everything that they've done in the dark is being brought to light. So I don't even make this too long, As I said, the biggest trick, or a master, basically one of their biggest, what's the term? One of their biggest traits, so for lack of a better word, is that of these Rothschilds and these different international banking families is, they use the secrecy as as a form of basically engagement, man. They was the so-called hidden behind the scenes, man, controlling shit, so to speak, because they think that they got the God complex going on. They're trying to be like the Heavenly Father on earth, controlling everything behind the scenes, but they're being revealed, as I said, and it's not going to take too long for that, as we see in the whole destruction, demolition of this whole Edomite empire is taking place right before our eyes, man. All because of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. So this is showing you the levels of power out here, that these devils are really on a low level when it comes to supreme powers, man. Because they ain't got the power of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, because he's the one revealing them. How the things of Esau searched out. How his hidden things exposed by the word of the Lord's prophets, man. Starting from the apostles and elders, a great millstone, who always used to bring out this information about the Illuminati, going back to the late 90s, early 2000s and all that. They always used to bring out those different books, the Codex Magicus and, the Aleister Crowley Book of the Law type books and so on and so forth, man. The, the Mazzini letters, the 3 letters of World War III, or the letters of World War III for Albert Pike, which he was the head of the Freemasonry. So, this is it's nothing new under the sun, man. There's nothing new under the sun. These devils are just basically trying to conjure old ancient spirits of witchcraft. But, this is old forms of witchcraft, man. It's nothing new. These Hamites, so-called Africans today, Hamites used to delve with the same type of magic on the left-hand side, man. And they got exposed and destroyed. So Esau is fighting a lose-lose situation, man. Psalm 64:2 says, "Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity." Yeah, the secret counsel of the wicked is talking about the bankers, man, international bankers that go under the term Illuminati or Freemasons, man. Holders of the light, so to speak. Luciferian, light bearers, because they got the knowledge and wisdom of the world, basically. Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai has given them that knowledge, wisdom on the left hand side, and they've corrupted themselves with it. You can read about that in Ezekiel 28, how they corrupted themselves with the wisdom that the Lord gave them, because they're the seed of the wicked, man, and they don't know how to do the rule in righteousness, man. They weigh their hands of the violence in the earth, like it tells you in this is it Psalms 58? Talking about these Edomites, man. They're forgers of lies, and the Lord's going to disappoint the devices of the crafty. So their hands are not going to be able to commit, accomplish their enterprise, so to speak, which is their new world order. This is what it's all leading to, but that's going to be a shambles as well. It says, "He whet their tongue like a sword, and bend their bows and to shoot in their arrows, even at bitter words." Yeah, they do everything behind the closed doors, man. They do all these seances and all their witchcraft ceremonies, all these child sacrifices and all that to gain power on the left-hand side, to make themselves to be like gods on the earth. And then they use that technology as well. But it's all futile, man, because at the end of the day, who ruleth in the kingdom of men? Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. So all the demons and all the spirits that they're conjuring up and blood sacrificing to and worshipping, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai controls those demons, man. So they can only do what they can been told to do. Until the appointed time when the Lord draws them back. And then, the Lord's gonna show his true power. That these devils never had no secret counsel in the first place. The Lord was always watching their dumb asses in the first place. It says that they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Who's the perfect children of Israel? Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans that make up the 12 tribes, man. Starting with the elect, because they want to get you off the face of the earth, because they know that you're the chosen seed of the Lord, especially the elect, and they know that we're basically a threat to their new world order and them, accomplishing their new world order goals, so to speak. So they shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not. They encourage themselves in the evil matter. They commune of laying slayers privily, privately. It says they say who shall see them. Yeah, so that's their thing. The whole power that they possess was basically through manipulation, and their sorcery was being able to deceive nations and have secrecy. The esoteric knowledge, so to speak, hiding in secrecy. But now their secrets are being revealed, man, and some of them by their own people. Is it like it says in verse 8? "So they shall make their own tongue the fall upon themselves. All they that see them shall flee away. Yeah, because these Epstein files are like the modern day Snowden files that's being released the Wikipedia files, you know, like they did with your guy Snowden a few years back. These are the modern day Epstein files they're using that same type of rhetoric, propaganda to promote him spilling the beans, basically spilling the tea on his own oligarchs, man, on his own so-called false leaders, man, and that's exactly what's happening, and it's causing so much internal, you know, fr- uh, frictions internally, spilling out into the main public as well, man. Like this shows you that they're not all in agreement, man. These so-called oligarchs of society, the 1%, the cabal. There's a lot of infighting going on, man. They're not all in agreement. This should show you like things like that in that movie Blade, where Secret Counsel of the vampires. You had the old fraction of the vampires, and then you had the new fraction. With Frost and all that. They didn't get along. Because they were saying he wasn't pure blood. You'll never be a pure blood and all that. And the Rothschilds, their thing's all about ancestry and so on and so forth. So, it's based upon that still. There's a lot of infighting within those wicked organizations, within the wicked chambers of the elite, Satan be divided against itself, how should these kingdoms stand? They're like reservoir dogs at the end of the day. And who controls them? Yahweh Bashim, Yahweh Shai. So they're all they're doing is fulfilling the will of the Lord on the left-hand side. It doesn't matter how deep and dark and depraved their wickedness seems to be. At the end of the day, they're being controlled, man. They can only do they can only do what they're allowed to do because it's permitted by the Lord, until he takes their asses out of the way. So, it's Isaiah 29:15. Woe unto them that seek deep to hide their counsel from the Lord, and their works are in the dark. Yeah. That's why they do all these different ceremonies and so on and so forth. Rituals and their different lodges and so on, various places on the earth. Certain, high levels of witchcraft and different parts of the earth, and their different lodges, as I said, to conjure up them spirits and gain power on the left-hand side. So they need a lot of blood spillage, a lot of child sacrifice to their false deities that they worship, like Baal and Molech and so on and so forth. Because they think they're actually doing something. They think they're actually winning against the Lord. And the Lord's sitting back, laughing, looking at these devils like, you have no idea who you're playing with. You don't understand there's levels to this thing here. And there's no one greater when it comes to the level of power than Yahweh Bashim, Yahweh Shai. Because he's the one that created all these principalities and powers that these devils are worshipping. So it shows you how stupid, really, these Edomites are. So they're rather worshipping the creator than they're worshipping the creation rather than the creator. It says, and they say, who seeth us and who knoweth us? Yeah, so that was their biggest, so-called part of their talent, so to speak. The great, have the power of deceit and deception, and to hide all their things in the secret and dark, in the dark, so to speak. And now, they're being revealed by Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, because he ruleth in the kingdom of men. So he made you basically think he was doing something. When in actual fact, he wasn't really doing nothing outside of his control. So let me go to the next precept. It's name 3. Read verse 4 and 5, I think it is. It says, because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot. This represents who? America. America is the harlot that sitteth upon many waters. It's also known as the mistress of witchcrafts, Babylon the Great. That's where all these devils, the helm of witchcraft, Babylon the Great. That's all these different ancient wicked societies and kingdoms all rolled into one, in a cauldron pot, and out of it came the land of confusion, which that's what Babel means, confusion. Which that's what America is. Because in America, you're free. You have freedom of religion, freedom of you have freedom of religion. You can worship anything. You can worship, anything moving, living or dead organism, man. You can worship, a damn wardrobe if you wanted to turn that into a damn idol. There's freedom of religion in America because they practice heavy levels of witchcraft, man, and heavy levels of idol worship. That's what America's known for, the land of confusion. It says that selleth nations through her whoredoms and families through her witchcrafts. And how did they do that? Through the transatlantic slave trade, And at the same time, they came with that Renaissance art depiction of our Lord and Savior Yahweh Shai, they ignorantly called JC. And they said that there was, Catholics and so on and so forth, and that we had to worship a white Jesus. That's a false idol. That's witchcraft, man. But that's how they took power over the nations, to manipulate, to basically deceive the nations into worshiping them as gods. Because up until now, still people think that the Lord and Savior Yahweh Shai looks like a so-called white man with dog stringy like hair, and the angels are little babies with nappies on, and the Most High is a so-called old white man, Like they got a painting in the 16 chapel, with so-called the Lord touching the finger of Adam, supposed to be an Edomite. That's all part of their witchcraft to deceive the nations, man, into worshipping them. That white supremacy and all of that. But all that shit's starting to fade now because people are coming to realize, just like them gutter rats over there in the land today, they're not the real and true inhabitants of that land. They're imposters, man. They feign their way into that position, into that land. And who stole that land in 1948? The Rothschild family. So the Rothschild family have got a heavy, their fingers are deep in the dirt, basically, and all the wickedness and the deceit that's been going on throughout the ages on the earth behind the closed doors and all these backdoor dealings. The Rothschild family is definitely one of them families that have had their dirty hands in all of that, man. Because they're the profiteers out of this whole situation. So they stole that land in 1948 through the Balfour Declaration. And even before that, they've been running the world ever since the 1700s. The Rothschilds been running the earth, In 1948, they stamped, their foot basically over there in the land of Israel as theirs, and they've been running that land ever since. So that land's overridden with imposters, man. But now they're being exposed because the Lord's about to destroy them and their habitation. Because the real Israelites are coming back into that land by way of the chariots, what the white man calls UFOs, when the Lord Yahweh Shai returns. So he needs to get rid of the goyim, the defilement over there, those cretins over there that's in the land right now. He needs to get rid of them by way of nuclear fire and destroy America, Babylon the Great, because that's their main habitation. Modern day Bosra, so to speak, the land of Edom. And that's going to be destroyed by nuclear fire also, and never be inhabited again by any human being. So yeah, they the Rothschilds got their hands in some deep shit right here, and it's going to come back to bite them in the arse, man. And they're just one of the main families out there that's part of all the shenanigans that's been going on in the earth. It's Isaiah 19:3, and it says, "And the spirit of Egypt, which represents America again, shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the council thereof." Yeah, who's the council? The so-called illuminated ones, Illuminati, Luciferians, light holders, light bearers. It says, "And they shall seek to their idols, and to the charmers, and to them that have familiar spirits, and to the wizards." And that's why you're seeing all these different, things being revealed and exposed. All the witchcraft that these devils have been doing, these Edomites have been doing behind closed doors. The people that follow them, how this whole system is corrupt from the head all the way down, internally and externally. This whole system is corrupt, man, because it's given into the hand of the wicked. The earth has been given into the rule of the hand of the wicked, so their whole system's corrupt. Everyone's been infiltrated and compromised, basically. They got compromised into on everyone and every government, man, on the face of the earth, one way or another, man. Everyone's been to Epstein Island, so to speak, And Epstein Island is not the only place that they've gone to and had all these weird parties and seances. That they've had many of parties and different locations that they got, Epstein Island's just one of them, man. People acting like that's the only place on earth where these elites meet up. Now, there's other places too. They got smaller fractions of the Epstein Islands as well. This is a well-built, organized machine of witchcraft and child sacrificing and basically blood idol worship, man. So this has been running for a very long time, man. This is how America was even born, through Freemasonry, witchcraft, idol worship. That's how America was birthed. That's how they so-called gained their independence, which they're celebrating 250 years this year. So all this shit is being revealed by who? Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. It's just a beautiful thing, man. And let me go back to Nahum, and I'll read verse 5, Nahum 3 and 5. Behold, I am against thee, saith the Lord of hosts, and I will discover thy skirts upon thy face, and I will shew the nations thy nakedness, and the kingdoms thy shame. Yeah, shameful spewing shall be upon thy glory. So everyone's seeing America for what they truly are, and who runs America, and who they truly are, and who works for who, basically. Who has to take orders from who, which all these different presidents and governments and all that, they have to go back to the Rothschilds, which are small hats, the J's, basically, to get authorizations to do anything in this earth. Just like Epstein said, man, he works for the Rothschild family. Just like Trump and the rest of all these different world leaders, they all work for the Rothschild family, man, one way or another, because they've all been compromised. They got that compromise intel. They got the Epstein files, footage, the videos, and so on and so forth, of them doing sadistic, wicked acts. So the Lord said he's against them, and he's discovering their skirts upon their face. He's lifted up the skirts of these devils, man. Because before the Lord brings that nuclear fire, he's going to show their abomination, that they've been doing. So it has, credence to judge them, man. Because the Lord deals with perfection and balance, man. So before the Lord brings that judgment, he's going to show why he's judging America, and he's judging the so-called white people, which are biblically called Edomites, the way he is, because they're the scum of the earth, and this is the reason why. These are just one of the reasons why. High levels of witchcraft and idol worship, man. And enslaving his chosen people. It says verse 6, and I will cast abominable filth upon thee, and make thee vile, and I will set thee as a gazing stock. Yeah, everyone's going to be looking upon this devil laughing, man, basically. Because modern day Nineveh, as I said, modern day Edom, Bosra, Egypt, Nineveh, they're all, hit words for America today, Babylon the Great. They're all pen names, basically, for America right today. So the Spirit of the Lord is against these devils. He's going to burn this bitch with fire, man, And who's the cruel Lord that ruleth right now? Your guy DJ Trump. He's the modern day Hitler, Same playbook, written by the same oligarchs of society, man. Just change the character's name, basically. Instead of it being Hitler with a dodgy moustache, you got this blonde-haired, blue-eyed devil named DJ Trump, which is nothing but a celeb, business celebrity that they made, take over the Oval Office and basically destroy the American economy internally and externally, man, from the inside out, economically, financially, all of that, so they can bring forth their new world order. But it's all gonna come to naught anyway, man. As I said, Job 5 and 12, he disappointed the devices of the crafty. Who's the crafty? These wicked elite, man. The ones that's under the web. When you go into that word crafty, it goes back to Genesis. It talks about, the serpent was more subtle. So it goes into that same words for subtle as crafty, man. More subtle than any beast of the field. So that's what the wicked elite, they think that they're under the web. They control everything behind the scenes. That's it. That's why even on a $1 bill, it's all, you got all the different emblems they got on it, the owls and eagles and whatever and then you got the whole note is basically covered in the web. When you look at it close enough, you can see it's actually covered in spider webs, because they think they control the world through that net of debt, or they do control the world from the net of debt. I butt you up that thick clay, and we're nothing but debt slaves to these devils. So Isaiah 14:12, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? And who's Lucifer? Represents the so-called wicked elite. Not even so-called wicked elite. It represents the wicked elite, the so-called white man. The holders of the light bearers. Lucifer, son of the morning, how art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weakest the nations? How did they weaken the nations? Through their debt and their debt enslavements, their impoverishing the land, stealing of other nations' resources, and putting them under that heavy, taking out heavy loans through the IMF banks and all of that they can never make payment for, never pay back. So they're all, he made the whole earth basically a net of debt slaves, man. It's a corporation of debt slaves, basically. Says, for thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of the Most High. And that's Esau's God complex. He thinks he's the Most High. He wants to be like the Most High, especially by crowning his enterprise with success, his new world order, and putting sea-hips in everyone regarding to the mark of the beast. That's him basically making himself a god on earth, through his technology, his AI, and so on and so forth. Which is, he's only going to get so far before the Lord pulls the plug on that, when he's about to fill his belly. He says, I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation on the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High, see? So these devils got a God complex, man. They're trying to be like the Lord, but they're never going to be that, because they're not a nation of gods. The only nation of gods on the earth are the children of Israel. And Esau gave up that birthright for a morsel of meat, because he didn't treasure it. He basically wasted his blessing away. And Jacob supplanted him from that blessing. Because it was Jacob's anyways in the first place, going back to the womb. The elder shall serve the younger. And both Esau and Jacob was born. So the blessing was never for Esau anyway. So it says, they that see thee shall know it. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the side of the pit. You're going to be brought down to a lower state. No more 5-star Michelin type dinners and all of this, yacht parties and child sacrifices and yachts and, all these different seances and parties that these devils hold, these balls and, all this partying and living lasciviously and sumptuously and all that. Like Lazarus and the rich man. Those days are over, man. Once the Lord brings these devils down, that's it. They're going to be brought down to hell, meaning the lower state, to the sides of the pit, because they're going to be brought down back to the basis of men, because that's who they truly are. It says, they that see thee shall not really look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms? Yeah. And that you're getting a glimpse of that right now. All these Epstein files and the things that are being released. Everyone's coming to find out, which the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone have been speaking about this for years. But now all of a sudden, everyone's a truth sayer now, a truth speaker now. You got people that didn't even know nothing about anything in regards to this truth, esoteric knowledge or whatever you want to call it. All of a sudden, everyone's a truth speaker. And they were speaking about this for years, and you got your Alex Joneses and all David Icke's trying to claim, that they were speaking about this stuff. But what about the prophets of the Lord? Because everything that they've been saying and we've been saying is written of in the scriptures. So the prophets of the Lord are the real ones that has been, speaking out there on the highways and hedges, warning Jake of the times to come, sounding the alarm, being the true watchmen of the Lord. But they're not going to receive no credit. Because they don't regard a poor man's wisdom in this wicked ass society. So now everyone's a true speaker, and also all of a sudden, but it's alright, because the Lord said, then it shall be known who are my chosen, man. Especially when that mark of the beast chip comes to pass, the prophecy be made mandatory around the four ends of the earth, then it shall be known who is the Lord chosen. I guarantee he's going to be the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, man. you know? Not these PC Israelite camps like IUIC and ISUPK, world friendly Israelites and all of that, man, It's going to be known, man. The Lord's going to make it be known, definitely. So, verse 17, that made the world as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof, and that opened not the houses of the prisoners. Yeah, so they're going to be despised, man. They're greatly despised right now. Everyone's waking up to the fact that the problem of the earth are these so-called white people, but not just white people in general. These small hats, man. They really do own the earth, man. They really do run the world. And anytime you say that, they want to pull out the hate cards and the anti-Semi this and anti-Semi that. But truth is the truth, man, and the truth hurts. You devils do run the whole earth. You have caused all the chaos in the earth for the most part for the last century and more. All down to you devils, man. Going back to even World War One, before World War Two, before you stole the Holy Land, you had World War One. During the Bolshevik Revolution. Well, I think that's even going into World War Two as well. Roughly, if I'm not mistaken, the Bolshevik Revolution. But you devils are the real cause of all the hell, war, torment, grief of the earth, man. Why there's a nation why there's war on the earth in the first place? Because you small hat banking families, man. Because you're the ones that profit off the melee, so to speak. You're the lords of war. 1 second, let me just check something. Yeah, so Bolshevik Revolution that was during 1917. So there is going back to World War One. Yeah, and who caused that whole situation to happen over there in Russia? Tsar Nicholas and all that, Alexander Nicholas and all that, and kicked out the monarchy. It was the Rothschild family, man, because they wanted to steal his resources, all his gold. He was like the last Tsar of the Russian Empire before, it went from a monarch to all this president bullshit that they have, socialism and all of that stuff that they did promoted throughout the society. So that all this chaos on the earth, the Rothschilds behind a lot of it, man. And there's just one of the main families, but it's just these small hats in general. Coming to find out, man, they financed the transatlantic slave trade, and that was way before. That was going back to what, 1620, 1619. 1492. You had the cryptic J's. Christopher Colomb come over to the New World. He was a cryptic J, man. He wasn't Spanish. He was a secret J. You brothers know what I mean when I say J. So these J's are behind a lot of wickedness on the earth, man. They funded Hitler. That's what they was bragging and boasting about between Ariana de Rothschild and Epstein, saying that who funded Hitler and who, they knew him both and all of that. Because that's what they've been doing behind the scenes, man. But, even though they think they're controlling shit behind the scenes, who's controlling them? Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai, man. King's hearts in the hand of the Lord. So these devils are fighting a lose-lose situation either way, man. So anyway, with that, I'm going to close out, give all praises and glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem, Rachakodash. Hopefully brothers is edified. Till next time, I'll say Shalom.